The rain drummed against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Seattle law office as Ethan Cole sat silently in his chair, his expression unreadable. At 42, he was the picture of quiet control, steel gray eyes, tailored suit, and the weight of a tech empire behind him. But today, he looked like a man about to lose everything. Across from him, Vanessa Cole swept into the room with the grace of a woman who believed she had already won. Her designer heels clicked sharply on the marble floor as she smirked, tossing her honey blonde hair back. "Sorry I'm late," she said, though she wasn't, dressed in black Armani arrogance. She looked like success itself, beautiful, poised, and cruel. Her attorney, Tyler Grant, a young shark in an expensive suit, sat beside her. "Mrs. Cole," he said confidently, "based on disclosures, the marital estate is worth approximately $850 million. You're entitled to a significant portion." Vanessa's smile could cut glass. "I've been ready for months, Tyler. Let's make this quick." She flicked her gaze at Ethan, her voice low but venomous. "I'm going to destroy you in court, Ethan. Half of everything you've built will be mine by Christmas." She winked as she signed the divorce papers, laughing softly. She had no idea that the man sitting across from her had already rewritten the rules of the game. Ethan didn't flinch. His attorney, Margaret Chun, a silver-haired veteran of 30 years in court, adjusted her glasses and asked quietly, "Are you absolutely sure about this approach?" Ethan's calm reply, "I'm certain. Let's end this." But 3 months earlier, everything had changed. That night, Ethan had been working late when he heard laughter from the kitchen, Vanessa's laughter. It had been months since he'd heard that sound, the one that used to fill their home with light. Curious, he went downstairs. What he saw ended something inside him. Vanessa stood pressed against the counter, kissing another man. Young, athletic, confident. The kind of man Ethan used to be before success had replaced youth with exhaustion. "I can't wait much longer, Marcus," Vanessa whispered. "The divorce papers are almost ready. By Christmas, I'll be free and rich. We can go anywhere we want." Marcus, her personal trainer, grinned. "You sure he doesn't suspect anything? The guy's a genius." She laughed coldly. "Smart with code, dumb with people. He hasn't noticed me in years. Trust me, he has no idea." Ethan had stood there in silence, the sound of his wife planning his destruction echoing in his mind. It wasn't just heartbreak. It was revelation. He realized a marriage had died long ago. What remained was strategy. "How much do you think you'll get?" Marcus asked. "Tyler says at least $400 million. With Washington law and emotional neglect, I'll win big." She kissed Marcus again. "We'll buy that villa in Tuscany. Travel. Never worry about money again." That night, while Vanessa slept upstairs, Ethan sat in his office staring at his will. His empire spread across spreadsheets, companies, homes, accounts, investments. 20 years of sweat and sacrifice, all about to be handed to a woman plotting to take half. Unless he did something. The next morning, he called his mother. "Mom," he said quietly, "I need your help." Linda Cole, 68, sharp as ever, had never trusted Vanessa. "Tell me everything," she said. He did. And when he finished, she was silent for a long time. Finally, she replied, "What do you need me to do?" "I need you to become the richest woman in Seattle." Over 6 weeks, Ethan and Linda executed a masterpiece of legal strategy. Every asset, every stock, every property was quietly transferred to Linda's name. The $12 million Bellevue mansion, now hers. The Aspen vacation home, hers. The tech company's shares, transferred into a trust with Linda as sole beneficiary and Ethan as trustee. "Every move is legal," Margaret explained. "Transfers between family members can't be contested easily. Proving fraud is nearly impossible." Linda smiled. "I've been waiting years to see that woman's mask crack." The prenup, signed 15 years earlier, sealed the plan. It contained a clause waiving spousal support in cases of infidelity, something Vanessa had ignored while dreaming about wedding dresses. "She thinks she's in control," Ethan told his mother. "She's already lost." He waited, patiently, silently, until Vanessa filed for divorce first. And today, she walked into court thinking she was about to become one of the richest women in America. Judge Carter presided over the hearing, a stern woman with decades of experience. "Good afternoon," she said. "We're here to address the dissolution of marriage between Ethan and Vanessa Cole." Vanessa stood proudly. "Yes, Your Honor. I believe I'm entitled to my fair share of the marital estate." The judge turned to Ethan. "Mr. Cole, do you contest your wife's claims?" Ethan rose. "I don't contest that significant assets were accumulated, Your Honor, but there may be confusion about ownership." "Confusion?" the judge repeated. Ethan smiled the first time that day, a calm, dangerous smile that made Vanessa's pulse quicken. "Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to present my complete financial disclosure." The bailiff delivered the folder. The judge flipped through the documents, her brows arching in surprise. "Mr. Cole," she said slowly, "according to this, your current net worth is—" Vanessa leaned forward, heart racing. This was the moment she'd been waiting for. The moment she'd hear the number that would buy her freedom. Judge Carter looked up. "Zero." The word hit the courtroom like thunder. Vanessa's smile vanished. "I'm sorry, Your Honor. Did you say zero?" her lawyer stammered. "That's correct," Ethan said calmly. "As of 6 weeks ago, I legally own nothing. All assets have been transferred to my mother's trust. I'm merely a signatory." Vanessa felt the air leave her lungs. You can't do that." The judge reviewed the papers again. "Every transfer is properly notarized and recorded." Mr. Cole acted within his rights. Tyler Grant scrambled. "Your Honor, this is fraudulent asset concealment. We demand an investigation." "Mr. Grant," Judge Carter said firmly, "I see no evidence of fraud. The transfers predate the filing." She paused. "Furthermore, there's a prenuptial agreement on file. Were you aware?" Grant's voice faltered. "Yes, but—" "The agreement waives spousal support in cases of infidelity." The judge continued. "Mrs. Cole, do you contest that?" Vanessa couldn't speak. Her mind spun as Ethan's expression stayed cold, almost attached. "This isn't legal," she whispered. "He can't just give everything away." "Actually, Mrs. Cole," the judge said, "he can—" "The court cannot award assets that no longer exist in the marital estate." The gavel struck once. "I hereby grant dissolution of marriage between Ethan and Vanessa Cole. No asset division. No spousal support. Court is adjourned." The sound echoed through Vanessa's hollow chest. She sat frozen while Ethan stood, thanked his lawyer, and walked out, calm, composed, untouchable. The gavel's echoes still rang in Vanessa's ears long after the courtroom emptied. Her attorney mumbled something about possible appeals, but she barely heard him. Her perfect manicure dug into the edge of the mahogany table as the truth sank in. She had lost everything. Zero. That single word had erased the future she'd built in her mind. The villa in Tuscany, the champagne mornings, the life she'd promised Marcus. All of it vanished like smoke. She turned toward Ethan as he reached the doors. "How did you know?" she whispered, but he didn't answer. He didn't even look back. Outside, rain still poured over downtown Seattle. Fitting weather for the day her world drowned. A week later, the rain had stopped. The sky was clear, and justice had never felt sharper. Linda Cole sat in the office that had once been her son's, now legally hers, signing stacks of documents with calm precision. Across the desk, Ethan poured himself a glass of whiskey, the same brand he'd shared with investors when he made his first $1 million. Linda smiled faintly. "Are you proud of how we handled it, son?" Ethan exhaled slowly. Proud isn't the right word. Relieved, maybe. She made her choice. She wanted to destroy me, Mom. I just made sure she got what she deserved. Linda signed the last paper with a flourish. "Nothing," she said, handing the folder that officially returned every asset to his name. Ethan nodded. "Nothing," he repeated, a quiet satisfaction in his voice. That evening, as sunlight faded across the skyline, Ethan's phone buzzed. A message from Asira Martinez lit the screen. "Dinner tonight? Found a new place downtown." A smile tugged at his lips, a real one this time. Asira was a patent attorney he'd met at a tech conference a month earlier. Intelligent, grounded, and refreshingly unimpressed by money. When he joked that he was technically broke, she'd laugh and said, "A man who can orchestrate something that's sophisticated is never broke, just creatively liquid." For the first time in months, Ethan felt the weight in his chest ease. He closed the office door behind him, leaving behind the chaos of marriage that had died long before its paperwork. Across town, Vanessa Cole sat alone in a cramped studio apartment, the same one she'd secretly rented months earlier for her affair. It had been her backup plan. Now it was her only plan. The glossy furniture she once dreamed of replacing looked cheap under the flickering light. Her designer wardrobe hung uselessly in the closet. The boutiques she used to shop at were now out of reach. Her phone was silent. Marcus hadn't returned her calls since the day the divorce was finalized. Apparently, a broke ex-wife wasn't quite as irresistible as a soon-to-be millionaire. The so-called friends who once cheered her on had vanished too. Invitations stopped coming. Messages went unanswered. The glamorous social circle she had flaunted at Ethan's expense had dissolved the moment her bank balance hit zero. She'd taken a job at an upscale boutique in Bellevue, part-time, minimum commission. Every morning, she smiled through customers who wore clothes she couldn't afford anymore. Every price tag was a reminder of what she'd thrown away. Sometimes, she'd catch herself staring at her reflection in the store mirror, still beautiful, but older, harder. The kind of woman who'd been loved once and then had destroyed it all. One gray afternoon, as she walked home carrying a paper bag of groceries, she saw him. Ethan. He was crossing the street with a woman, tall, dark-haired, confident. Asira. They were laughing, heads close together, the kind of laughter Vanessa hadn't heard from him in years. He looked different, lighter somehow, like a man who had finally set down a burden. Vanessa froze, half hidden behind a lamppost, her heart pounding in her throat. Ethan's hand brushed Asira's as they entered a restaurant, their old restaurant, the one she had chosen for their anniversaries. Now, she couldn't even afford the bread there. For a moment, Vanessa imagined walking in, demanding to speak to him, begging for forgiveness, or maybe just a second chance. But the thought withered as quickly as it came. The man she betrayed was gone, and the one who remained would never look at her the same way again. That night, alone in her apartment, she replayed everything. The laughter in the kitchen, the whispered promises to Marcus, the arrogance in court when she thought she had already won. How could she have been so blind? Ethan had never raised his voice, never sought revenge in anger. He'd simply outplayed her. He hadn't gotten even, he'd gotten ahead. 10 steps ahead. And in that quiet, Vanessa finally understood the most brutal truth of all. Smart men don't destroy their enemies. They let their enemies destroy themselves. Meanwhile, Ethan's life began to rebuild itself effortlessly. His mother's trust was dissolved, assets legally restored. His company, once nearly at risk, flourished. Investors who'd panicked over the divorce now doubled down after seeing how shrewdly he protected everything. When he appeared on the cover of Forbes 3 months later, the headline read, "Ethan Cole, the man who outsmarted divorce court." The photo captured him smiling faintly beside Asira, the caption beneath reading, "Sometimes losing everything means finally winning back your peace." Months passed, and Seattle moved on. But somewhere in that same city, in a dim apartment filled with regret, Vanessa Cole sat scrolling through social media, watching her ex-husband's success unfold like a movie she could never star in. There were pictures of Ethan and Asira at galas, tech events, charity dinners. He looked happier than she'd ever seen him. And she looked like the kind of woman Vanessa used to pretend to be, confident, warm, real. Vanessa shut her phone, tears burning her eyes, not from heartbreak, but from the crushing realization that she had orchestrated her own downfall. If she hadn't cheated, if she hadn't schemed, if she had just talked to him, maybe they could have rebuilt what they'd lost. But now, it was too late. Ethan had given her exactly what she'd earned. Nothing. One evening, as Ethan and Asira walked along the pier, Asira asked softly, "Do you ever regret how it ended?" Ethan looked out over the water, the sunset reflecting off the waves. "Regret?" he said quietly. "No, I regret trusting the wrong person for too long. But I don't regret letting the truth reveal itself." He turned to her, a small smile touching his lips. Some lessons cost a fortune. Others just teach you how to protect one. Osiris squeezed his hand, and together they walked on, leaving the past where it belonged, behind them. And across the city, the woman who once laughed over divorce papers sat alone by her window, whispering the same two words over and over. Zero. Nothing. Her own echo of the day she lost everything. Not because Ethan took it from her, but because she had thrown it all away. Moral of the story: sometimes revenge doesn't come through anger or cruelty. Sometimes it's quiet, calculated, and absolute. The smartest move isn't to destroy someone. It's to make sure that when they try to destroy you, they do it to themselves.